Alrighty folks, want to welcome you back to another video from Yates Computers Tips and Reviews. I mentioned this in my little video I have on all my other YouTube sites about making sure you watch all these videos. These videos are very important, and if you have to break it down, watch it in 10 minutes, 15-minute segments per day, come back, watch it some more, go through, watch the whole video afterwards so you understand the whole concept of what is being explained. Please do. Because a lot of this information is quite technical, quite advanced, and a little hard to understand unless you're actually working on it or dealing with it. And with this year of being the rabbit hole, it kind of makes things a little worse because things go a little deeper. And for this subject, for this week's video, I've touched on it, I've talked about it, a lot of things. I've talked about it in video cards, in monitors, your back plates on your computers. This is actually kind of a big rabbit hole, a big dispute, a big thing that's been going on. A big argument, a big battle between multiple companies to try to control this aspect of computers still. And it is basically what cable you use. What kind of cable, what kind of connector you use for your video. Things have changed a lot over the years. From where you used to get a video feed was your video feed. That's what it was a video feed. This is a TV card. You have different ports they had available. Now, this is a digital output feed. This will put out digital video to your monitor. This is analog video feed to your monitor. You can use either or. There's advantages of going away from this to going to this. So that is where this rabbit hole starts to become a bigger aspect and a bigger problem. Now, I did mention there's reasons why to go to that. Then there's adapters. I'll get into more of that because that's the next step, the next phase of. Now it's not video anymore. And that's the catch-22 rabbit hole. If you're talking about video, this is what I basically break it down to, is between that port and that port is your video ports. Now you have video ports that are your multimedia ports. They're not actually video. They're multimedia because they do a lot of things. And if anybody knows about this cable, I got to show you multiple angles because there's cables that look very similar. If I show you this, you won't know what this is. I bet you a lot of people will guess this is an HDMI by this picture, by that view. You actually can tell the difference in most. Because if I show you this, I can tell you what this is from this. Because there is a difference. Right here. There is a difference, but this is not truly a standardized thing that's out there. I've seen them without those little locking pins. This has become the more standard today. The first generations of these that came out did not have those. They looked like the HDMI. You literally had to pick them up and look at this side. I wanted to show that. This little cable that I started out with is a converter. And now this is the second gen, the new modern gen video, but I consider it your multimedia, and I'll get into that because anybody that really had dealt with that technology understands. And if you've watched all my videos on add-on cards, motherboards, the backs, video cards, audio cards, all of those things will tell you about this, why this is different. So this is the rabbit hole, because now you're talking about a video display that now I'm referencing you to 3 different videos. There's actually 4 or 5 videos. Now we're talking about monitors. How many monitors? Multi-monitor. I also have a video on how you set them up and arrange them in the OS so I can actually use my TVs as monitors, and how I move from this monitor to that monitor and angle them and adjust them in the system. I have videos on that. So there's 5 videos pre-existing from this one to go into this. Because now, based on this, has features, capabilities, other things that your video cards, DVD players, tuner boxes, all these other things come into play also. All that media uses the same technology, the same kind of cables. Then you get into Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 type of ports. There's different generations in DisplayPort. There's different generations in HDMI. There's 3, I believe, in... how I want to... There's actually 3 generations, but there's steps within the generations. DisplayPort, I believe, is up to 2, and there's multiple steps in there. So, you have DisplayPort 2, you have DisplayPort 2.1, and DisplayPort, I think it's 2.2 that's out. That's a standard. So, there's different features for those cables. So, this is where it gets kind of weird with things like this. If you're a gamer and you're doing a lot of things like that, heavy graphics, you need to pay attention to these. You need to pay attention to what you got. You need to pay attention. If you go out and buy a new video card and it has 4 ports on there, what are those ports? A lot of people aren't really using that many ports. But if you need DisplayPort because it does a very specific function or a graphics or a ratio or a refresh, anything that you need on your monitor, and you have to buy that monitor that supports that, this is where the rabbit hole comes in. Okay, you go out and buy the 4090, 5090 graphics card. You go out and buy this big burly system. Maybe you buy 2 graphics cards. Maybe you link them. Maybe you do whatever you need to do. Go back, watch all those about video cards and multiple video cards and spacing and all that stuff that you go through to get that set up. And then you use the wrong cable. Not to mention, you go out and buy all these brand new fancy monitors, curved monitors, arched monitors, flat monitors, big TV style. Mount it all. Do all of that. And then you do something like this. Oh man, that's dirty. You do something like this. or this, and you don't get what you want. Or you think you got what you want, but you way overpaid for a lot of that, because what you just did with this eliminated bandwidth, pixel rate, a lot of different things. Games, certain games might only work through a display, HDMI. Anybody that really knows HDMI, one of the issues I have with HDMI is it communicates from the monitor to the computer. So if you are on a UPS, you followed all the best practices. I have videos on power. It's part of this year, the videos on power, UPSs. Your computer stays on, your monitor goes off. There's a very important reason for that, because those monitors pull too much electricity to actually put on a UPS constant. You can put two UPSs, put one on there, one there, and you can keep them up. You don't want to put a printer on there, because the printer will just suck the juice out of a UPS and it'll freak out. And you really don't want to be printing anyways. You can wait to print. You want to save your documents, you want to shut down your computer, and you want to do those type of things. These things have to communicate back and forth. I've had issues where it's become unplugged from someone's computer. You go to plug it back in. Guess what? You have to reboot the system sometimes to get the monitor back up. It's kind of ridiculous, because if you have an open document on that computer, you have a chance of losing that document because you can't get your video display to come back up because of the cable. If you had a display cable and you plugged it back in, it came right back up. There's different features between the ports, between display and HDMI. I don't know all the exact specifics, because I can't compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Because if you have a monitor that has HDMI 2 or HDMI 2.1, there's a huge variable between a display port. Because now you have to know what display port, what model, 2.1, is it a 1.1, is it? Those variables are huge differences, because depending on what video card you have or what you buy, it might be completely different versions. Maybe you put in multiple video cards, like I mentioned, and you have DisplayPort on this one and you have HDMI on the other one. They're completely different cards with different memory, different cache, different CPUs, different everything. The ports are different. So they could be completely different. For most users, it probably ain't gonna matter. That is really not one of the features that are gonna matter. Cost on these might be a huge difference, because you want a display port, you don't want HDMI. A lot of these monitors actually do support multiple inputs. You can get monitors that will take DVI, HDMI, DisplayPort, mini display, all kinds of different things if you look. Of course, there's going to be a cost to it. When you look at monitors and you want a high-end monitor, it might not have all those choices. It might say, this only supports HDMI, because that monitor is completely configured for the HDMI specifications. So then you don't want to go from a display port to HDMI when you bought a monitor that is specifically designed for HDMI. You would probably want to stick with a straight HDMI cable to HDMI, because then that video card or whatever board, whatever you have it attached to, will actually be fully communicating to the monitor in the way it's designed to be done. So that is kind of the rabbit hole of it all. HDR. I don't really see a whole lot of HDR is the one thing I can think of offhand that supports DisplayPort. DVD players, all those other functions, most of them are all HDMI. So I know technology's changing, so I don't want to just say you can't do this and you can't do. It's going to be a constant change. It's going to be one of those things you have to do your homework on and you have to do your research on. But this was one of the subjects I did not really focus and do a dedicated thing on yet. And this is the time I'm doing it. Because, yeah, you can do all your research on your monitor. You can go out and buy the biggest and fanciest video card. And if you do your research, go on there, 4090, see what ports it has. It's going to confuse you. Because I believe it has 3 HDMIs and 1 DisplayPort. I know it has 3 and 1. In which order, I don't know. But depending on what make, what model, Color War Video, it's all your video cards. The 3 different brands, 3 key brands out there. On the motherboard, off the motherboard. You know, there's other little companies out there that make video cards. There are other kind of video cards than the high-end video gaming cards. There's the lower-end cards, too, that are for basic workstations and basic functions. So to know all of these things, to understand that what ports you actually get, you can buy computers nowadays. We've done it where you can add a port to the back of the computer and you can choose what port you want. And this last generation has gotten a lot trickier with this. Because now you have a new factor that came into play. USB-C is now video. You can now get video from USB-C. I have not done a lot of research. That's something everybody will have to do their own homework on. Because some things actually have video ports, 2 video ports, and you can add one. HDMI, display, USB-C. And I believe you could add the older Tech 2 on some of them that would plug in and work. That you have those options, DVI and that type of older technology. So now you have a lot of that older stuff that coming into play. And I wanted to bring up the factor is if you run an HDMI to your TV or your monitor and your monitor has speakers, you will get the audio from your speakers. No, I have some somewhere. Instead of standalone speakers you'd put next to your computer. That's the way it's kind of always been for a long time. You'd have your speakers hooked to your sound card, your motherboard. You'd have your display hooked up. Now, some computers still have integrated video and audio on there. You don't necessarily have to use the speakers on there. You can also run out DisplayPort, HDMI to that, and have speakers and set up your computer to go through the speakers. Or an inboard on the computer speaker. So this is really where the rabbit hole kind of gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Because it's not really only the cable. This actually now sucks everything in. All those other videos get sucked into what cable, what port, maybe a distance. there are, I believe, not fiber, what is the word I'm trying to think of? It is FireWire display. There are a lot of those type of things. Give me a minute. There are FireWire. There are other little things out there that you can communicate to a monitor, workstations, different over, I think you can do over Ethernet, little adapters, depending on how far of a distance you need to go. There are lots of little things out there other than that. So this is where the cable comes into play. And again, I've mentioned there's different versions of cable. A lot of these features probably, for most people, aren't going to be relevant. When you go to shop for a video card, shop for your monitor, of course you want to make sure the ports match. But then, okay, I know what video card I want, I know what graphics card I want, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to set it up a certain way. So now you buy it, you build your computer, you add it to your computer, you go to set it up, you have your monitor. Now you have the $1 million choice between, do I use this cable or do I use this cable? Because now you have those ports on both. So for most people, it probably won't matter. Most people will probably end up using this cable because that's probably what they have laying around. That's the most common cable probably everybody has. You use them for TV. You use them for everything. Your video display, your DVD players. You know, you use them for a lot of things. So this is probably the most common cable probably people use. Knowing if that's really the proper cable you're going to want is probably not going to be in your wheelhouse or going to matter. So this is why I wanted to do this video, is to point out some of these factors. To know these factors. Because now, if you're a home user, small business user, maybe you don't want this at all. Maybe you go for this. Because isn't this compatible with that HDMI port? Yeah. So you might end up eliminating this because you don't use TV and computer at the same time. Maybe you want to stream. Maybe you want other services. I got a whole VR collection about virtual servers that maybe that will lead you from one connector to the other. Because now you want to connect to this and not this. So this is why I call this the rabbit hole. Because there's so many variables, so many things, and technology's moving so fast. And if you've watched any of the videos that I've done, it might spark an interest in you wanting to change some of your configuration, some of your network, some of what you've got, not realizing, well, really, I don't need this anymore. I can just hook up here. And in here, I have this hooked up to here. My capture card's hooked up over here. I always have this for something else I can use it for. So I am actually using a lot of this even though it's off in the videos. This is tech that's out there that's just general. And using stuff like this, I think I've done a video on the adapters, and a video card that I bought in the computer I bought that I'm using, that I was playing with, was one that took a proprietary pin structure. I don't think I have it there. Yeah, it's right here. It's right here in front of me. Where it would split out to two monitors. Let me take that off. And I was really kind of surprised. I saw these on eBay, and I want to try this and see if it even works. And what was really kind of surprising to me, and this is why I'm kind of going back to this on this one, is this one I first found was the adapter that went out to HDMI. And I went, oh, okay, well, that's okay. But then, again, what did I bring up with the difference between that port and HDMI is video and media. Next, I found this one. This one goes into the primary port. It's a specialty port. It's an old style video card. A lot of people have probably seen them around. But what surprised me is it had dual HDMIs. And I bought it because I wanted to see, will this work? It works. It displays the video. Of course, it will not do audio because there is no audio jack input to feed the audio through these lines. I'm sure if I looked around, I could probably find one similar to this that you could plug an audio cable from the computer into this. There's some out there that are powered that will do that, where you have to plug it in your USB or plug it in somewhere else to get power, so you can actually get the audio and video feed through. But this will actually show monitor 1, monitor 2 off of that old style video card. This is a, I'd say 10, 15-year-old video card that I can actually hook up to HDMI monitors. And I did. I played with it in here and I tested it. So, this is not a new video card, a new only issue. So I wanted to go through and sum all that up and bring that up because this is something that's, like I said, I was shocked to see that adapter. They were split into two of these. You can find those adapters. I was surprised to see you can split it into the DVI. I've seen a couple of those adapters around, and that's what kind of got me researching it. Because, again, analog, digital. That's what got me looking, okay, what other digital do they have? I found that, found it where it comes out on 1, comes out on 2. So I ordered them to test them out and try them. So, again, this is where that rabbit hole is. Knowing what you want, how you want it. Now, is that perfectly fine? What I'm showing you, it has video. It's not multimedia video no more. It's just video out to that. But then you got to realize and check, how big is that video card? What's the refresh rate? What's the pixel rate? If you want a game on that, that's probably not good enough for you. For home business, home use, I'm sure that's perfectly fine. I played with it, it looked fine. There was no problem that I could say that, hey, you shouldn't do that because it looks horrible. No, it looked okay. You don't want to be doing that if you're gaming because it ain't going to give you that quality you're expecting because you think, I'm HDMI, I got all this. No. The video card can't do it. That interface can't do it. That port can't do it. It's not only the cable. So, knowing that and understanding that is why I did this video on this rabbit hole, to explain that. So again, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I didn't confuse everybody, because it is quite a confusing subject. Hit the bell. Hit this after you subscribe. Hopefully everybody's subscribed by now. Subscribe, hit the bell, follow along, come back, watch those videos, watch more. I have a video explaining why my videos are so long, and I'm not doing multiple videos a week because I'm trying to give you the full content. I don't want to break it up and give you these little junk videos that nobody's going to get, and it's a waste of my time. Alrighty, thank you so much.